Hey, Megan Scully, and this is the Limerick Post Show. And joining me now, it is Limerick native Cillian Ó Gairbhí. Conas Tatu, how are you getting on?
Come on, August to fan, Megan.
I know we could do this Os Gaeilge because the reason we are chatting is about a new Irish film called FOSCADH. First of all, I'm going to have to ask where the Gaeilge came from.
I suppose it was really my family's interest in it, in particular my mother and my father. So they instilled in us all as kids just a love for the language and a readiness to engage with it, where, you know, it might have been in the everyday world, but they certainly opened up our minds to being able to discover it. Spending summers down in Gaeltacht and Kerry helped an awful lot as well, back in Ballinarterrig and places like that. Really, I suppose there's nothing better than to be amongst native speakers when it comes to learning a language.
And of course, suppose getting to work now with the Irish language. But before we talk about the film, tell me about getting into acting in the first place. When and why, or when did you decide I wanted to get into acting?
It's a question I'm not certain about the answer to. I'm still trying to figure out what was wrong with me that made me choose such a bizarre route in life. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I have always had a great love for film. It's been my kind of great passion from a kid right through to my teens, and even during college. I went to UCC, but I think I watched more films during that time than I did attend lectures. So yeah, it was kind of after college that kind of quiet little voice at the back of my head became a little bit more loud, and it became unavoidable in a sense just to listen to it and to take the plunge, which I eventually did do. And I applied for the Gaiety School of Acting and did the 2-year full-time course there. And I suppose it's from that point that that acting became my life, I suppose.
Amazing. And of course, now nominated for an IFTA. But before we get to that, talk to me about FOSCADH. Tell us all about it. And I know it is in cinemas from today. So I think I've been reading up about it, but do tell our listeners and our viewers all about it.
So FOSCADH, it's an adaptation of another Munster man, actually, Donal Ryan's book, The Thing About December, which is an absolutely fantastic book. And Sean Bramnock, the director, adapted it from that source material. It deals with it follows the story of Johnsy, who is an isolated young rural man, and without giving too much away, it explores the reality of that life that so many people are still experiencing, but perhaps the mainstream narrative often avoids those more difficult areas of rural isolation and rural loneliness, and people who are trying to seek a connection and a sense of belonging in some strange way. And FOSCADH isn't afraid as a film to lean into that difficulty and lean into that kind of a world. It came about really for myself through just auditioning for the piece, and it seemed that we clicked immediately as a team. And Fionnuala Flaherty, there was kind of a trio of us who began to workshop the script with Sean as we were kind of developing it in advance of shooting. And all three of us, Donal O'Haley, Fionnuala Flaherty, and myself, we seemed to have a shared understanding immediately that we were in a space where we could really go for something. So as three actors, that was just a beautiful coincidence for us all, that we were ready to jump into a project like that and give ourselves over to the act of storytelling, which was very intense, very short, but we managed to pull it all off in the end. And thank God, you know, the results, I believe, are up there on screen. I think it's a really, really challenging film, and a film that people ought to go and see.
I think there's one thing is, I suppose, Irish people as well, and I always associate as well when it comes to Gaeltacht or Irish speaking people, is storytelling. I think it just kind of goes hand in hand. But too, without again giving too much away, tell us about your own character.
Okay, my character is called Dave, and he is, I suppose there's a kind of an arrested development thing going on with Dave, where I think we all know unfortunately, perhaps we all have a Dave in our lives where it's somebody who has not quite gone beyond that sort of early 20s mentality of let's go out, let's get drunk, let's not think about things too much, let's not burden ourselves with too much responsibility. So while he has that, still has that mentality, he's a guy in his 30s, so it doesn't sit well with his actual age. Dave is somebody who I think comes into the story, and we're not certain of his motivation with regard to his friendship with John. We're not sure why he's there, what he's getting from it. And it's through that relationship that I think Dave is forced to confront the reality of his own immaturity eventually. It's as if that journey just brings up in him the facts, the harsh facts of his life. He's still going out every night of the week or wanting to get drunk all the time, when those days are well past, let's put it that way.
I think we do actually all know Dave, and I think he'll be quite a relatable character as well. I should, of course, mention again that FOSCADH is out in cinemas nationwide, including our very own Omniplex in Limerick. Now, Cillian, have to chat and say Cahordachas for your IFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actor. It's on tomorrow night. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling, it's all very surreal. Of course, it's, you know, a lovely honor and a very welcome surprise. It's I'm still finding it difficult to kind of articulate, because in some sense, you know, with so much going on in the world, you don't want to focus on something that might be, in the grand scheme of things, not all that important. But then when you reflect on it a bit more thoroughly, you realize that filmmaking, story making, art is one of the things that ought to be celebrated, especially during the most difficult times, because I think we all maybe increased our appreciation for what artistic people provide us during the pandemic, when all we had was the next Netflix show or music or books to draw on for our experience. So I think it's a good and a positive thing that the film industry is, you know, it's starting to pick up again, and that it's being celebrated. So to be part of that and to be recognized in that manner, I mean, it's very humbling, and it's a lovely honor.
I think it is so important you mentioned there. And I think, you know, during the lockdown, the arts really suffered so bad. And you mentioned Netflix, and I think we all got to the stage where we'd watched absolutely everything because nothing was in production. And, you know, we all were starved of going out to the cinema, going out to the theatre. And I'm sure you as an actor as well, not being able to go to work, but now having that back, it's like, I think everyone has a newfound appreciation for the arts and for that industry. So I think it's going to be a brilliant night. And all we can say from everyone at the Limerick Post, and of course from Limerick, we have to say Cahordachas, and we will be keeping an eye out for you. Cillian Ó Gairbhí, do you get back to Limerick much now these days, or does work just keep you away?
I get back whenever I can. My folks are still living down there, and you know, I'm a very proud Limerick man. I love Limerick, and I'm you know, I think Limerick hurling is probably an even bigger passion for me than acting. So anytime I can get a chance to go see a Limerick hurling match or get back, you know, Limerick is home to me, and it always will be. Well,
as I said, we do look forward to welcoming you back here, and we'll be keeping an eye for you and all your next projects as well. Gurmila Magat.
Gurmila Magat. Thanks a million.